Alright, so this Duramax, it's dumping rail pressure, and I've checked everything on the low side of the system. This is a special gauge that goes on. There are no lift pumps on these Duramaxes. It runs off the CP3 gear pump, and it's actually internally inside the Bosch CP3. Hold on, I'm trying to get this thing to go on. Okay. See what it does when we start it at an idle, and we'll come look at it. Kink out of it. Alright, so I got this gauge given to me by an actual I like what he wrote on the box. CP4 inlet metering valve for LML. CP3 conversions are done because CP4 sucks. This was a guy named Mike Myers. He gave me all kinds of stuff. Desired and actual fuel pressure don't match. Fuel pressure regulator on back of CP3 pump. Yep, T25 torques. So this is the return flows. He's already got the return flows for the banks per bank on vacuum. 10 inches crank. See, crank checks suction CP3. Okay, fuel rail 67, blah blah blah. And these are the codes I'm getting. I'm getting the p1093. I'm not getting the p0087, but I'm getting the p1093. I'll have to look up and see what the actual. There's a wide open throttle you do on it, and I don't know how you're supposed to. Why didn't they make the gauge longer if they wanted you to do a wide open throttle? Do they ever think that maybe you might not have somebody there to help you? You might be by yourself. I guess I can prop it up there on the hood somehow where I can see it. Pulling 10 inches of vacuum. I don't think that's right. I think we've got a restriction. We've got a restriction in the fuel system somewhere. I don't know if I can see that from there or not. Maybe I can prop it up. Now let's look at it. We're sitting here idling. A little bit over 20 inches of vacuum. I would say we have an inlet restriction somewhere. We're not getting, something's plugged up somewhere. We're not getting enough fuel. And I changed fuel filters on it already. Slowly come down. It's at 15 inches. Let me look up the information for that code again. Okay, so here's the diagnostic procedure for it. This is Identifix. This is a monthly subscription. It's cost me about $200 a month to have all the domestic and foreign vehicles, which I don't even know why I got the. Well, it's just part of the program. I don't work on Toyotas and shit like that. But anyway, so is DTC P0168 or P0090 set? No. Turn off the ignition for 30 seconds. Turn on the ignition with the engine off. Observe fuel rail pressure regulator command parameter with a scan tool. We could do that real quick. So key on engine off. Let me go get my Autel, but let's look at the vacuum thing right quick, you know, and just kind of check that out. I'm kind of curious to see what it's supposed to read. So Inspect for fuel contamination, blah, 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 blah. So I see the vacuum gauge down here, but we'll do the steps just to make sure. Install the vacuum gauge on the fuel fitting located on the right side of the front of the engine. Start and run the engine at idle. Observe the vacuum gauge while increasing RPM slowly to wide open throttle in park or neutral. Does the vacuum measure less than the specified value through the entire RPM range? I would say no. It's reading, it's almost like 15 inches just sitting there idling. That means there is a restriction. If you had way less, like 0, I guess you could say, then you had an air leak on the intake side, or the inlet side of that. So let's see what we're doing idling right now. We're just sitting here idling, and we're at 10, 11, 12 inches of vacuum. So, and I did wide open throttle, and I went clear to 20 inches of vacuum. So, but let's do the steps. You know, we'll look at the regulator command and all that bullshit. Let me go get my Autel. Okay, I'm sitting here idling, and I'm at fuel rail pressure regulator command is 32%. So they want you to turn the engine off, key on, engine off. Okay, turn that off. So the fuel rail pressure regulator command right now is 23%. So what are they saying here? That's not said. Turn off the ignition for 30 seconds. So I'm gonna lose communication there. Let me pull the dinger out of the son of a bitch. I'll have to go back into the data, but turn off the ignition for 30 seconds. Turn on the ignition with engine off. Observe fuel rail pressure regulator command parameter with a scan tool. Is the fuel rail pressure regulator command more than the specified value? Okay, so no is on the right hand column and yes is on the left hand column. Okay. So I guess we'll just let it sit here for a little while and make sure we do our 30 seconds. I didn't even think about the 30-second thing, but that should be 30 seconds, huh? Or am I jumping the gun here? Let's go fuel system. So this thing's saying 23%. Okay, so what if you say yes? Yeah, yes is on the left-hand column. Go to step 4. Attempt to start the engine. Does the engine start and idle? Well, yes, it does. Go to step 5. Turn on the ignition with the engine off. Observe actual fuel rail pressure parameter with a scan tool. Is the actual fuel rail pressure parameter within the specified range? So they're showing millipascals there. So, where are we at? Desired fuel rail pressure. Where's the actual? Actual fuel rail pressure. That's PSI. Is that what they're wanting me to read there? Observe the actual fuel rail pressure parameter with a scan tool. So, do I need to change this to millipascals so I can get an idea if, you know, you got this down here and hang on. Alright, I looked up and converted it over on my phone and we're within specification. Like 1.8 MPa is around 260 PSI. So we're at 220. And I've seen a lot of John Deeres do that. You know, I've had a couple John Deeres on the Denso fuel system. This is a Bosch fuel system on this. But I've had the Densos, have a biased rail pressure sensor and it'd read like 500 PSI and the tractor wouldn't, and it'd read 500 PSI, key on, engine off. And it'd read that pressure, and what that does, it tells the ECU controller on the engine that, oh, I've already got fuel in there, I don't need any more fuel to start. So what it does on the Densos, it doesn't open the suction control valve to let the fuel into the rail, so it'll never start. And so that's one thing you can look at on them John Deeres. See if you got a no start, go over there and just key on, engine off, and look at your rail pressure and see what it's reading. So we're within specifications, so that's step number 5. I'm going to say go to step 6. Did you find it? Wait, inspect for fuel contaminant. Wait. Turn on the ignition, engine off, observe fuel oil pressure within a scan tool. Is the actual fuel oil pressure parameter within specified range? Yes, go to 6. Inspect for fuel contamination. I don't think it's got contaminated fuel because I had the fuel tank out of this thing recently and had it I cleaned the tank. I just don't think that's going on. So what if you said, okay, did you find and correct the condition? No, go to step 7. So then we're on to the vacuum gauge. I think that's kind of where we're at in the right area. Install the vacuum gauge. Okay, so we know that does the vacuum measure less than a specified value through the entire RPM range? That's where we say no. No's in the right-hand column, and then go to step 11. Replace the fuel filter. I just replaced that fuel filter on there. It's been a while ago because this pickup's been sitting over there waiting for me to work on it for a long time, and I just haven't had time to do it. And it's starting to creep back up. It's still got just a little bit of vacuum on it, but so I just changed that fuel filter. Yep, that's a brand new fuel filter on there. So I'm certain that that's not the problem. Okay, so there's got to be something in a line or a hose kinked or something in the pickup tube or something of that nature. Okay, so we'll say after step 11, replace the fuel filter. Did you complete the replacement? And then we say yes, go to step 12. Ensure the blah blah blah, the gauge is still on the engine. Start and run the engine under conditions for which the high vacuum occurred in the previous test. Does the vacuum measure less than or equal to the specified value? No. Go to 13. Repair the restriction in the fuel supply lines between the tank and the fuel injection pump. Okay, well, that's where we're at. We'll just start her again. We'll see what she's doing at an idle. Yes, the fuel system is restricted, most definitely. Okay, so we've got this line. So this line here, where's it going? It's going right up, pretty much where this gauge is right here. Okay. So it sucks through the fickum. It sucks through it, and they're running around. The dipshits are running around with their air filter restriction communicator not even in the hole, sucking dirt right through. Golly, man. Some of these knuckleheads, you can't make it up. You just can't even make it up. Anyway, so I'm just tracing fuel lines out. Where does it go from there? So we got the fuel injection control module. This must be the inlet coming into this module right here. And this line that's going across. Okay. Trying to eyeball this shit as to where it's going. I remember I've had these things apart a million times. So there is the rail on this bank. So here's the fuel lines right here, and I'm wondering, okay, so which one is supply and which one is return here? This one here is like teed into the return right here coming off. Okay, so this has got to be supply, this line right here. Trying to see where exactly. This has got to be supply. So let's get underneath this thing and look at it real close, see if there's any evidence of line that could be kinked. I'm trying to find out where did Warren put his creeper at. That would be kind of a handy thing to have right now, so I didn't have to lay in the water. Let me find it. I know it's a short-term try, but I got the hose off right here where it goes through the ficum, and I'm just gonna blow through it, which I already did this. And I thought, you know what, I better just show them. I'll show you what I'm doing. And I had quite a bit of back pressure when I first did it. And I got the fuel cap off so it doesn't build pressure in the tank. There definitely was something. There was something in there somewhere because I had a bunch of back pressure when I first did that. So the hose clamp fell off somewhere. We need to put it back on and try it again. So let's break the bleeder loose. Let's prime it up again. There's fuel coming out of there, but you would think there was be nothing in the line going to it, because I don't know. Let's see what happens. Don't really feel it getting hard, you know, like it usually does. Put the gauge back on there. I got a feeling it's gonna start to die on me. What if I put the old cap back on her? Okay, let's see what we got here. Look at my vacuum reading now. Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. I thought, you know, that thing, it's just pumping the fuel in that primer right out the filter head. It's not priming, you know, it's not that, you know that fuel line from there to the tank's empty and ain't got no fuel now, so I'm just gonna have to prime it back up. Oh, come on, you miserable bastard. Well, I'll tell you what, Grandpa Grandpa taught me an old trick. Let's see if we can find a couple of shock towels. I'll show you what the hell I'm gonna do. Take this. Kind of create myself a seal here and go. Let's see what we got. Oh, look at that. I got fuel there now. Yeah, pressurize the tank and shove the fuel to it. Now this thing's pumping something. There we go. Now, definitely know that we got that line full of fuel again. We'll have to pump on it a little bit more. The problem is, whatever I blew back into the tank's in the tank. So we know if we don't do a thorough job and pull the tank out and find out what was in there, it's gonna be back. Which it might be back with anything. These guys here are not the brightest. I mean, when you got shop towels and shit in the fuel tank, I mean, I don't even know how to explain. How do you do that? You would have to, how do you do that? I don't know. Was somebody looking at this earlier and then that's what, I don't. There she goes. 5 inches now. Way better than we were at idle. We were at what, like almost 13 inches sitting there idling. Restriction in there. We're a hell of a lot better than we were though. We went from like, it should pretty much hang around 5 inches. It shouldn't pull down like that. That was 16 inches of vacuum at wide open throttle. Way better than we were at idle. What are we, like at 7 inches? Which I'm almost thinking this gauge, I don't think it's quite accurate because I mean, shit, I had 13 inches at idle. 13 to 15 inches sitting there idling before. So watch this gauge here. I'll show you. Pop it off of here. Push that in. And you'll notice that that gauge isn't really zero right. I mean, it's not really... It's clear over almost to... You know... Look at it. It's not really even zeroing. So, I mean, how... So it might be reading 5 inches set there at an idle. I don't think it's 100% accurate. I'm kind of curious to go drive it and see if it does it again. Under load, you know. See if it falls on its face. Because, I mean, you'll get out on the road with it and stomp on it. and it'll flat fall on its face. Now it's hanging out right there at 5 inches. What Mike have wrote on his box here? Vacuum 10 inches crank. Oh, okay. So that crank. So he must have been doing a crank no start. He must have pulled the fuse or something for the thickum, so where it would just crank. And that pulled 10 inches of vacuum. That tells you that the suction checks the gear pump on the CP3 is what it does. Well, I definitely know it's way, way better than what it was. Let's go drive it and see what it does. Stop on the other side of the tracks there, and then we'll stand on it and see what it does. This thing broke the extension housing, the back of the transmission. It like broke it there not too long ago, and I had the last end of the transmission apart. Okay, here we go. It's falling on its face. Yep, there it goes. Well, I don't want it to shift right. Nope, it's falling on its face. It's still got a restriction in there. So there's the check engine light. We'll go put the gauge back on it. We're gonna have to pull the tank on it and clean the lines out. It's probably in the pickup screen or something too. Let's go over here and look at the codes. Trouble codes, read codes, engine. And it's going to have a p1093 in it. Current p1093. So we definitely know we're in the right area. We have a restriction between there and the tank. We just got to figure out what the hell's going on with it. You know, if you just drive it like this, like, well, actually it's in a limp mode right now, so I'll put it in neutral and I'll shut the key off, and then I'll start it again, and it should take it out of limp mode, and the check engine light will still be on, but it'll take it out of limp mode at least. But if you just drive it like a normal person, it's fine. But, you know, if you want to go drag racing with it, yeah, it don't work very good. So, I'm going to go blow through it one more time just to see due diligence there and see if I can get it to... Maybe it sucked it right up. Whatever we blew out, maybe it didn't blow it completely out. And it's just, you know, maybe you can't blow it out because there's probably a sock on the end of that pickup tube, and it's probably blowing it up against that sock. I mean, how would it make it? That's what I don't understand. How, whatever's in there, how did it make it past the sock? Or did I blow it off the end of the sock when I blew through it and it just sucked it right up against it again? So let's go hook the gauge back up to it and kind of, yeah, she's kind of falling on her face now. Oh yeah, it's terrible, huh? Yeah, she really don't like it when she's got a little bit of a load on her. All right, we'll go back and put the gauge on it again. Well, guys, I wanted to video. I ended up dropping the tank down right here on the floor, and then I pumped it out with my transfer pump. And see if I can find, this is just a small portion of what was in the fuel tank. Wood chips. Now, they've got bulk tanks over there, and I know there's filters on them. That's not going to go through a filter. That has to physically... There's more shit. There's quite a bit more of it out there on the ground out there. But you would physically have to put that down the fill neck. That's the only way that shit's gonna get in there. This is the second time I've had to clean his fuel tank out within a year. So I don't know if this kid, I know this guy lives at a ranch house. I don't know if he has young kids living at home, and then they're, you know, dicking around there and pulling the fill cap off and throwing shit in the fuel tank. I don't know what the hell's going on. But it's costing these guys a lot of money, I'll tell you that. So anyway, we're gonna see what happens here. I blew through the lines, they all were clear. We're gonna pressurize this tank a little bit here and get some fuel flowing. Nowhere else for me to put the cap, but I guess stick a rag, stick it over the fill neck to kind of create a seal. Then I come up here and start pumping. Look at that, let's see here. That's not really a good indication there. I mean, but you'll get some fuel out there. It takes a little bit on these to get them to pick it up. Bad thing about not having an electric lift pump. Yeah, let's go see if we can shove some more fuel to it. Yeah, there's somebody, that's the only way that stuff can get in the fuel tank is by physically dumping it in the neck. See if we get anything out here now. I hear shit going on over here. There's fuel pumping out of that. There we go, we got pressure there now. Oh shit, you dumbass. You know what I didn't do? Got to put the frickin' hose back on there, you stupid bastard. Yeah, that ain't never gonna prime up like that, moron. Fuck some of the things you do. You can go to talk to yourself and you go, you dumbass. What the hell's the matter with you? Yeah, I blew through this hose with when I had the tank off. So I wanted to make sure it was clear. And I sitting there trying to prime the fuel system up with moron. And I need to put that clamp on. It won't. You can't get your screwdriver on there that way. And what if you put it that way? That's a pain in the ass. You don't want to do that. So turn the clamp around. Yeah, these guys, these guys have a hell of a time here, I'll tell you that. This is one of them outfits here that you don't see this at any other place. You just don't. You only see it over there. This kind of shit going on all the time. Let's try to pressurize this again now that some dipshit's got the hose on the filter head. It's pumping. I feel it. Feels like it is anyway. It's hard to beat an old cat priming pump. You know what? It really is. Okay, I'm getting fuel out of there now. Okay. And I have misplaced my screwdriver. So what the hell did I do with that? That's the box my gauge came in. Laid my screwdriver down somewhere. I don't know what the hell I did with that. Losing my mind here. It's in my pocket. That's a bad thing about these gloves. Sometimes I cannot feel things in my pockets and stuff with these gloves on. So let's keep pumping on it and pumping on it and pumping on it. Try to get this thing kind of hard. It'll probably crank and crank and crank, and it might start crank and start and then die. Let's try it and see what we get here. That's all right if it starts, huh? Still acts like it's restricted a little bit, and we've come a long ways. Still doesn't seem like it's quite right though to me. I wonder if some of that shit could have gotten a fuel filter. I think we're doing way better than what we were. I don't know why the sending unit's not reading. I poured 10 gallons in there. I don't know what's going on with the fuel tank sender. I'm gonna probably have to put a sender. It's plugged in, but we've got this problem fixed, I think. Let's start from the stop. Put her on the floor. She's on the floor. She's running like she's supposed to now. throttle again, 70. Yeah, I don't want to go too fast in this pile of shit. It'd probably lose the wheel off of it and I'll run off the road and get killed. So, alright, I'm gonna have to order a sending unit for the fuel tank. It's something happened to it. I took that fuel sender apart down on the bottom where it comes up against the tank because there was wood chips down inside where that floods with fuel or it takes a suction. Because this one here didn't have any sock on it. It had some kind of, I don't know, the fuel kind of floods in that spring-loaded assembly and it sucks through there. So anyway, I fixed the fuel problem, but I just got to get the sending unit working right now. And I already talked to them. They said, well, we'll just fill it up every day and at the bulk tank. But I said, you got to figure out what's going on with your, you know, you got to figure out what's going on with your, who's getting wood chips and shit in the fuel tank. Stomp on her, put it on her hard. I couldn't get through second gear last time. It would kick that 1093 code on. So we got her fixed, the exception of the fuel tank sender. So I think that it's probably reading way less vacuum. I don't think that gauge that, I should have brought that new gauge that I bought at home with me, or at home to put on it, because this gauge doesn't zero. It's like 2 dash marks off, so I don't even think it's reading 10 inches of vacuum. I think it's reading about 7 or 8 at wide open throttle. But remember, I started out at 13 inches of vacuum at idle and 21 inches of vacuum at wide open throttle on the fuel system between the tank and the CP3 Bosch pump. So now we're at, I'm thinking around 7 inches of vacuum at wide open throttle and probably 3 inches of vacuum at idle. So a significant improvement. So, let's hit her again. So, yeah, alright guys, well, I'm gonna let them come get it, and I'm gonna call Kenworth, and hopefully Dave's part showed up for his truck.